Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. It's the France 24 debate, and we're debating the debate. Let me explain. There's going to be in 90 minutes' time the only face-off of the runoff campaign here in France between centrist Emmanuel Macron and the far-right's Marine Le Pen. That debate will be aired here on France 24. We're talking about it in the company of Macron backer Renaud Dutreil, former Minister for Civil Service and State Reform. Your political family in the past has been the center-right.
Yes, we had this party and the Republicans, which have been embodying, this Sparring, the left, right, and this paradigm is not working anymore.
So you've decided to change and to go to Macron.
Well, I didn't decide anything. I saw those two parties collapsing. So they're not live anymore. So there is a new paradigm, which is very interesting and very challenging for the country, which is, are we going to be an open country or are we going to
a closed country?
Shrink?
Let's pick up on that point after we say hello to the rest of our guests. Nicolas Tardy-Joubert, we were talking just before the break. You're a member of the Christian Democratic Party, regional councillor, which is part of that big tent of the Les Républicains coalition that was eliminated from the runoff, and you're a candidate for the legislative elections.
Yes, absolutely.
Whereabouts?
In the Yvelines, so the west part of France, close to Versailles, in one
close
of the
to Versailles, in the southwestern suburbs of Paris.
Yeah.
Okay. With us as well, Bruno Cotres, researcher at the French Political Science Institute, Sciences Po, and Mark Perlman, France 24 politics editor, who will be with us on election night. Now, just before we get back to the issues at hand, really let's talk just a moment about the debate itself. The first televised debate goes back to 1974. There's sit-down affairs in this country. They can be quite freewheeling at times. Simon Harding explains.
A verbal offensive, an appeal to emotion, an anaphora, a debate which can in a few seconds change the course of a campaign. In 1974, there was the first French presidential debate in history.
The set was dark, the atmosphere cold. Both candidates were tense and not even talking to each other.
That night, Valéry Giscard d'Estaing swept François Mitterrand's campaign aside with a few killer words.
I find it always shocking and injuring to manipulate the monopoly of someone's heart. You don't have that monopoly, Mr. Mitterrand. You don't have it.
7 years later, the duel was repeated, but this time, François Mitterrand had prepared himself by practicing fake debates with his advisors, and that time, it was him who came out on top. The left ascended to power, but they were haunted by a split and a coalition in the government which foreshadowed a bitter and tense debate.
Allow me to say that tonight I'm not the Prime Minister. And you're not the President of France.
You are absolutely right, Mr. Prime Minister.
A line which helped Mitterrand win the day, the press unanimously agreeing that Chirac had been cast aside. In 2002, everyone expected Jospin to face Chirac, but a huge shock rocked France as far-right candidate Jean-Marie Le Pen moved to the second round. Chirac refused to debate with the National Front leader.
I have refused them in the past, and I will not accept to debate with them tomorrow.
10 years later, Nicolas Sarkozy faced François Hollande and his famous as president.
As president of the Republic, I would not call my prime minister an employee. As president, I would enable the justice system to work independently. As president, I would always ensure that my behavior is exemplary.
On Wednesday night, the 7th debate of the second round will take place, a brand new duel, which will certainly make its own history.
Renaud Dutreil, in 2002, the last time the far-right was in the runoff, there was no candidates debate. Are you glad that Emmanuel Macron is having this face-off with Marine Le Pen?
Yeah, I think things have changed. In 2002, it was evident for everybody that Chirac was representing the République, and he had on the other side of the table someone who was a stranger. Now it's very different. First, it's a crash test for Republican values, for sure, and a lot of people are going to vote even if they do not approve of Mr. Macron's policy, because they view this vote as a crash test for the Republic. It's also a test for Europe. And a lot of people are going to determine whether they're more in favor of Europe or against.
But following up from something Mark Proman said in part one, is this time around she's slated to get so many votes that she can't be ignored anymore, and you have to face off against her.
Yeah, because now the new paradigm, it's about, are we going to have an open country, still, competing with other countries, with kind of looking toward modernity, or are we going to close the doors everywhere, to come back to the past, an illusory past? That is what Mrs. Le Pen is embodying. And the people, they know they have this choice. The mistake is about thinking that Mr. Macron is embodying, the winners. He's not the guy who is just coming for the winners. He's also very preoccupied by all those people in France who are not, able to find some advantage in what's happening today in Europe, in the globalization, in technologies, in everything which is changing our world. And that is a terrible shock for a lot of people, farmers, civil servants, people in the countryside, and of course unemployed people. They're desperate. And of course they're using Mrs. Le Pen to say, don't forget us. We are also French people, and we need your support, and especially, the support of the state power, the administration.
Nicolas Tardy-Joubert, some people saying we've been talking in too simplistic a fashion when we say that it's the winners versus the losers of globalization.
Well, I think that, in fact, we have kind of choice of civilization.
Choice of civilization?
Yeah, I think so. So either we continue with Hollande's policy, because I think, again, it is a manipulation, because Hollande has got the worst popularity. And what is very strange is now Macron, his successor, his son, some kind of fact, is in the pole position, which is quite strange. So, in fact, I think we need to understand what is the concern of the French people. They see that there is open borders, that there are 9 million people unemployed, that there is a lot of communitarism, there is issues with agriculture. We have people and farmers that are really in very bad situation, and people think that in fact we are walking to the cliff, and they want to change. So in fact, I think the people, French people, are not extremists. They just have a big concern about how to tackle the problem. And what we have seen, so they don't want to continue. Paradox. This is a big paradox. They don't want to continue because I think there is a majority on the right in the country. But now we are going to continue this walk with more open borders, with more TAFTA, more CEFTA, etc., and bring really a lot of concern to people which are really upset about what they see and what they live. So I think there is a change. And again, these two projects, either the National Front or Emmanuel Macron, is not the right thing for France. I think, of course, and when we look at the polls, we can imagine that Emmanuel Macron will win, okay? But really, the next battle is for the legislative. So we need to move forward and to bring back to have a majority on the right to make sure that we can control the changes and, come back on track for France.
A clash of civilizations, people upset with politics. We said that there'd be a high abstention rate in the first round, and nearly 8 out of 10 French people voted. This time around, Bruno Cotres, what kind of abstention rate are you foreseeing?
It could be a bit higher than for the first round, obviously, because some of the first round voters have no longer their candidates in the second round, and also because some of the first round electorate hesitate.
How much higher?
It could be that abstention would turn about 25 or maybe a little bit bigger. It's hard to estimate before the election, but it just indicates that still a majority of the French will come to the polls. And for the first round, we have seen that if French are dissatisfied with their political system, it doesn't say that they don't care about politics. People like politics in France. People went to see the debates for the primaries. They have seen also, probably this evening, there will be a huge
It was 18 million viewers the last time around in 2012.
And we are in that country where people are
despite the fact that there's going to be the Champions League match taking place.
Probably, yes.
There'll still be a high viewership.
But extremely motivated for public goods and for also politics.
Speaking of this of tonight's show, the debate between Macron and Le Pen, which again you'll see here on France 24, Mark, there's going to be one novelty in the format, which is what we call in TV parlance cutaway shots. That is to say, while one candidate is talking, you're going to be able to see the other, whether it be in a flattering or unflattering light. Why did they agree to that? And is it a revolution in a way for this debate format?
Well, for us work in TV, yes, it's a revolution because before this was not accepted by the candidates. There was a lot of negotiations. My understanding was that Marine Le Pen was not really in favor of that, but eventually she agreed because, I mean, for like those who were directing the show, it was really a nightmare because they had to stay on the person who was speaking. We saw, for example, the anaphora of François Hollande as president, and Nicolas Sarkozy, according to old people, was making faces like he was going nuts to see François Hollande speak like this, but we never saw it. So I guess it will make for a more lively debate because body language does matter on TV, as we all know. And so it's going to be interesting to see the behavior of the candidate who is not speaking when the other one attacks him or tells a few things. And so they will have to be on their best behavior even when they're not speaking. So
all right, give us a cheat sheet here on the body language between the two.
Well, obviously, Emmanuel Macron has to look presidential because there's been a question mark hanging over him since he started, as you say, never elected for office. Does he have the mettle to be president when it matters? So he has to look presidential, especially on serious issues like, you know, terrorism, security, foreign affairs. Marine Le Pen has to show that she embodies the people. She clearly said, I'm with the people. We saw it. I mean, last week there was this kind of face-off, which was unexpected when she went unexpectedly to this Whirlpool plant that is closing and going to Poland, and she tried to hijack Emmanuel Macron's planned visit there. She said, I'm going there with the workers. Emmanuel Macron is talking to the unions, and he then managed to kind of like get even with her because he then went to see the workers. So she's going to embody that. She's going to probably the main challenge for her will be to channel her anger. She has to be on the aggressive side, but not too aggressive because people will think she doesn't have to be an attack dog if she wants to be president. So it's also a tough balancing act for Marine Le Pen.
Tough balancing act on that. But aggressive but not scare people. Renaud Dutreil, let me ask, because I know it seems technical, but this idea of allowing cutaway shots. So if one's talking and the other goes like this, for instance, you can. Is that a good or a bad idea?
I think it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Because we remember in the United States there was Al Gore rolling his eyes at one debate, and it helped George W. Bush.
Details, maybe we're going to have something like Nixon and Kennedy with two people, representing something so different, so people are curious. But what is meaningful is about the issues. How are they going to deal with all those
body
issues?
Language matters a little bit.
Yeah, but they're seasoned professionals. They know how to speak on the TV, so they're not going to surprise us. Like people do not behave the way we're expecting.
But this kind of debate is typically the situation where you cannot really win the election because of that. But obviously, if you do a big mistake, it could cost you, obviously.
So you can't win, but you could lose.
Yes, absolutely, yes. But it's not going to make the winner, obviously. But people are expecting that Marine Le Pen is showing that she can be presidential, that on economic issues, European issues, what she's saying is feasible, in particular about France and the EU. And Emmanuel Macron, he has absolutely the challenge to show that he's like a president, that he has the mettle to become president.
How did he seem to you, Bruno, how did she seem to you in the first round debates, Marine Le Pen?
In the
because they did try to rattle her. There was some heated exchanges in that five-person debate, and there was one with a Trotskyite candidate.
Yes, and she was not very easy when the debate went on the scandals of Marine Le Pen. She was not very easy with that, but also she has shown, and I think that she did a lot of improvement in her communication, and in particular, she is much better on today to defend her position on substantive issues, but she has to show that she's not aggressive, and you know that in this kind of debate, aggressiveness is at one stage maybe positive, but also can cost you a lot.
Nicolas Tardy-Joubert, as you prepare for your legislative election campaign that's coming up, today the candidates were not on the campaign trail. They were each preparing for the debate. What do you think are the keys to preparing for a debate?
Well, I think they all know perfectly their dossiers, and I think they have to rethink about what could be the quick question from the journalist. What are the key items they want to provide to the audience and to the telespectators, and make sure that the key messages are well understood, and try to convince the people that are a little bit uncertain about what to do. So I think this will not change dramatically the result of what we can expect. But of course, this may change the number of abstentionists, for example, or the people, or small percentages. Well, this is the way I see things.
It could change. It could change the mind of some people who might be saying. Could it change your mind? You said you weren't going to.
No, I don't think so.
You're certain of that. You don't think so, or you know you won't go.
No, I know I will not change.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Mark Perlman, the two candidates, they've been prepping all day today. Again, what goes on in those prep sessions?
Well, there are various techniques. Some take sparring partners, for instance. We saw earlier this report about François Mitterrand, who in 1974 was not really well trained. He trained for the 1981 debate with Laurent Fabius, I think the man who would go on to become his prime minister for a long time, because he realized he needed that. So we're told that Emmanuel Macron did not go through this technique, but Marine Le Pen probably did some sparring partner to see what kind of answers she could expect, or some attacks she could expect. But obviously, they've been on the campaign trail. They've been on those debates. They know the issues. They probably know the angles of attacks coming from the other side. So, I mean, yes, they have to be snappy, they have to be good. Emmanuel Macron has to avoid being too technocratic, which he can be. He can go into financial details that will lose anyone who is not working on Wall Street. That's a danger for him. He can think that he's very smart, maybe smarter than the other ones. Marine Le Pen can be too aggressive. This is what probably their advisors are telling. This is where you should not go, Emmanuel Macron. If you begin to lecture people on the economy, you will lose your audience, Marine Le Pen. If you're attacking everyone, you will lose the moderate voters, maybe that could join you, and they will say, oh, maybe she's dangerous.
Renaud Dutreil, I know you've worked in business in the United States. When you French debates are very brainy affairs by comparison. I mean, they're even if you, without appearing technocratic, we saw in 2012 both François Hollande and Nicolas Sarkozy go into policy detail in a way that you would never see in many other countries.
Yes, but with Mrs. Le Pen, there is no chance.
It's not going to be like that.
A brainy debate. It's going to be all about assertions. She's not going to listen to Mr. Macron. She's going just to repeat what she's repeating every day on the trail. So it's not going to be a debate between people who try to find the truth and are looking for something in common, which is most of the time what is interesting in the debate. So it's a very artificial debate.
Bruno Cotres, the big difference with 5 years ago as well, not just cutaway shots, is the advent of social media. How do the candidates in that respect, are they looking for that one zinger that can be replayed on Twitter and Facebook?
They certainly became much more aware of this than before. So it is extremely likely that they are going to be very careful about the words that they are using. They are obviously looking for the killing sentence, which is going to kill the other side, and they know that it will be replayed and replayed and replayed. So they are much more aware of that, and they are using much more social media than they used to do before. I think that for Marine Le Pen, one of the big issues is going to attribute to Emmanuel Macron responsibility for François Hollande and results. And for Emmanuel Macron is going to explain that Marine Le Pen, that pretends to be an outsider from the system, actually she's inside the system since many years.
All right, Bruno Cotres, we're going to leave it there. I want to thank Nicolas Tardy-Joubert, Renaud Dutreil, Marc Promen, but stay with us just a few more minutes. Media Watch is next. Guess what it's about? And we say hello to Emma James.
Hi there.
You heard Bruno Cotres there say how in today's world the politicians are aware of the presence of social media and how be it the good zinger or the big mistake will get replayed ad nauseatum.
Yes, absolutely. There are going to be plenty of people primed tonight to talk about everything that is said on that debate. It could be as many as 15 million people tuning in, but people pointing out that some viewers might be tempted away by Monaco versus Juventus in the Champions League. Nar, the cartoonist, a nod to that here. France cut in two, and you've got the woman shouting, "Go Macron," while he's shouting, "Go Monaco." It's hard to know how many people who wanted to watch the football would actually bother to watch the political debate. Not making any judgments about football fans there. And this
or
Twitter
which you'd
user,
watch on Catch-Up TV.
Well, yes, that's true. This Twitter user saying, are there any bars open tonight to watch the match between Macron and Le Pen? Because, of course, it is being seen as something of a possible sparring boxing match. We will have to wait and see quite how it plays out and whether they keep their cool under fire. As for other people, the anticipation for some, it is anxiety. Get Out is a movie that's just come out here in France, and this is from the poster, a very startled-looking, tearful young man, and that's obviously somebody who doesn't want to vote for Marine Le Pen because they've used the hashtag Le Pen non. Other people wondering whether this is basically the size of what this debate is. I'm not the system, says Emmanuel Macron, and I'm not the extreme right, says Marine Le Pen. Of course, both of those denials are the things that people really attack them for, as well as obviously the reasons why some people want to vote for them in the first place. So those will be two things that they will be trying to get that message across really tonight to ensure that everyone turns out for them on Sunday. And this is a Twitter account that frequently melds together different people's faces. And what he says is that tonight lots of people see this debate as a confrontation between two heirs. And of course we have Marine Le Pen there, the heir to her father, Jean-Marie, and of course that is Emmanuel Macron, heir to François Hollande. Often referred to as Bébé Hollande by the National Front and often used as an insult. François Fillon as well used to call him Emmanuel Hollande. But one thing that is still a major talking point, it first emerged yesterday. It was a claim by a journalist at BFM TV that Emmanuel Macron, a spokesperson for him, had hinted that Emmanuel Macron may well just walk off the set if he becomes Marine Le Pen's punching bag during this debate. However, it's not quite as simple as that. Libération have been looking at this story and they say that basically this was an exchange that was misunderstood and badly transcribed. It simply isn't true, and a spokesperson for Emmanuel Macron has said today that he has never feared confrontation with Marine Le Pen. Of course, it's too late really to stop all the comments that are already out there. The bloke who hasn't even put a foot in the studio yet is threatening already to walk out of it. Marion Le Pen, the niece of Marine, said this. He wants to run out on the debate if it's too difficult. And this is the same guy who would have to negotiate with Trump and with Putin. Worrying weaknesses, she says there. And Marine Le Pen has tweeted this, and you can see how popular it is. More than 12,000 likes. It's been retweeted almost 12,000 times too. If Mr. Macron is uncomfortable, then he can always ask François Hollande to come along and hold his hand. I wouldn't oppose that. And you can see why her followers would really have liked that kind of zinger, the term that you've been using quite a lot. The Local, if you want some more information about the debate in general, have come up with all the things that you need to know, the essential info, and some that is less so. Interestingly, their last line is this, that the second round debates don't typically change the course of history. And there is a recent poll which suggests that 75% of people have already made up their minds what they will be doing on Sunday. They point out that Marine Le Pen will be the first to get to speak tonight. Emmanuel Macron will get the last word. It's going to be refereed by two men. It should have been refereed by two men, but the CSA, the broadcasting authorities, got involved and said, no, we have to have a woman. So it's a man and a woman hosting this debate. 14 cameras. The studio will be kept between 19 and 20 degrees so that they don't sweat. Yeah. And there will be no audience. But if you want to compare the policies ahead of the debate, the best place to look, especially if you are English speaking, is the France 24 website, where you can click on the different subjects and find out where the candidates stand.
And the best place to watch it is, of course, right here. Emma James, I want to thank you. I want to thank our panel once again. Thank you for joining us here on the France 24 debate.